All right, welcome to Out of the Blue from the Block M Podcast Network, part of the Fan First Sports Network. When asked about this podcast, the CEO of Disney said, "Who are you, and how did you get into my garage?" I am Jared Stormer of the Block M Podcast Network. With me, as always, is Andy Bailey, my hetero life mate. Andy Bailey, a true roadman, a gangster, a proper naughty boy, and all that bollocks. How the hell are you, my friend?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I am tremendous. We are usually pretty excited for podcasts. You'll get the every odd one where it's like a little hungover, a little tired, not getting all the way up for it. This is a 10 out of 10. This is about as ready to podcast as you're going to get us. We had to start a little bit early. Work, you're going to have to deal with it. If need be, I'll take some PTO. We got to talk recruiting. We got to talk the state of the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry. We've got a podcast for you with a capital P tonight.
Yeah, I took off Thursday to Monday. Like, you think it's for the holiday to, like, travel? And
No.
No, it's time to lock in. That's what I'm doing. I'm watching Carter Meadows tape. That's what I'm doing over the holidays.
Prepping for Friday by watching what we can watch, just breaking down tape. I mean, I am knee deep, neck deep in the tape. Can't even catch up. So let's get into it, man. I don't even know that this is touching the banner. This certainly won't be a 2-minute offense. We've got to cover what we've seen from this recruiting run, a generational recruiting run that Sharon Moore and Lou Esposito and these guys are on right now. The Michigan class has just absolutely exploded up the rankings. I don't even know where we're at right now. We were 9 last time I checked. So we're at 8. We're up to 8 now with the addition of 4-star cornerback Andre Clark. But it's been a lot since we last spoke, man. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then one that we think's about to happen with a crystal ball since we last spoke. So is this the best recruiting run that we have covered since we've been doing this podcast?
Yes. I mean, this is absurd right now. I tweeted earlier from the Out of the Blue account, this is like Tom Hanks in the 90s right now. Like, we are just rolling through hit after hit after hit, and it doesn't stop. Like, every time you think, like, okay, maybe, we're going to settle down for a little bit, then Sharon tweets out the eye emoji again, and we're right back to it.
The amount of eye emojis, you could build a bridge with them. We're lousy with eye emojis because it's every 5 minutes. And then I love all the people doing the Lord's work out there, connecting the dots and like crossing which eye is to which person. I'm not here for that. I'm just here for the meat and potatoes, which we have quite a bit of. Pick a recruit, man. Where do you want to start?
Let's start at the top. The composite 4-star, 5-star edge, Carter Meadows, man. Like, just diving into him just a little bit before this, one of my favorite little nugget I got was from Andrew Ivins on 247. He's the evaluator. Said this about Meadows: spider-like pass rusher with exceptional physical specs. I just walked away. I was like, that was like Picasso painting. I was so envious of that line. I was like, this is so good, and he's not wrong.
Rolls off the tongue. This is a great place to start as the highest rated recruit. I will say, though, not my favorite recruit in this class. A developmental project, very similar to Nathaniel Marshall in that sense, or Lugard, where it's like, okay, I see what you're going for. There's kind of a run on these guys with big, long frames, extremely athletic. This guy actually the most athletic of that group that we just mentioned. Based on what I've seen, looks like he could go out there and play safety if he wanted, and could actually be a little bit of a tweener and like do some stuff on the edge where he's dropping back into coverage because he's fast enough, he's quick enough, quick twitch athlete. I could see violence in the hands. Like, he's got to find a way to get that a little bit more consistent to like it's all in that technique world, but like could be a very violent edge rusher if he can harness that. But the athletic profile is absolutely off the charts, and that's why everybody wanted him, and that's why he's a 5-star.
Yeah, the athletic profile is rarest of the rare. It's in the highest echelon of anything you want to look at. I saw a comp that I really liked, like very similar to Brian Burns, now the pass rusher with the Giants, kind of about the same height, close to the same weight. And he plays that way. Like, it's speed, it's quickness, it's all that athleticism. But having him now in this class, man, this defensive line class is shaping up to be the best in program history because you add Carter Meadows to Mikhail Blade, Alistair Vallejo, and Titan Davis. Like, that's a lot of size, athleticism, and beef on the defensive front.
And there's just already guys hanging out from last year that were just developing that are in the till. There is a lot of talent currently in this edge room, and there's a lot more talent coming. So I would be surprised if Carter Meadows is like an instant impact guy, but if he figures it all out, same with Nathaniel Marshall and Lugard and all these guys, like this guy in particular is like bigger Rashawn Gary. Nicole Harbor was a comp that I made, the guy that ended up moving to tight end, but I think should be a defensive end over at, where did he end up going? South Carolina, I think.
Yeah.
Nick Harbor, yeah. So it means that kind of athlete where like that's why he's a 5-star is because everybody wants to get an athlete like that in their room. So super exciting pickup there. Let's go with my personal favorite next, and that is going to be 4-star offensive lineman Malachi Lee coming out of Honolulu, 6'7", 320. The reach, the athleticism, the footwork, the mentality, the fact that look, you and I never going to shy away from a giant Polynesian kid that knows his way around the interior of a line, either side of it. This is my kind of recruit. This is my Amir Herring replacement. I love this kid.
This is Penei Sewell. That's what it is.
Basically,
he is massive. He has quick feet. He plays with an edge. And I mean, there's no better way to put it. Just plays with some shit to him. Like he's just out there, like looking like with bad intentions. And he's a bookend tackle, man. He is a bookend tackle. Like if you're projecting 2 years down the road, you could see Haywood kick into guard and him playing left or right tackle with Andy Babs on the other side.
That's an insane amount of talent now with him joining the fray and these like other 5-stars that we've got littered throughout this roster. This guy feels to me like a surefire kind of prospect.
Yeah.
There's another one of those that we're going to talk about here shortly, but this is one that like I'll sign my name in ink. I'll chisel it into a rock. I'll get it tattooed on my face. I don't care. Malachi Lee's going to hit. I hope it's with Michigan because I was very surprised like to get a guy from Honolulu, just came from there. Wonderful place, dramatically different place than Ann Arbor, Michigan. But the program obviously had a lot to offer him. And, like a lot of these guys from Hawaii end up going to Oregon, USC. So this is a big get for Michigan to pull this guy out of the West Coast.
Yeah, I mean, and let's stick to the offensive line here and go to another recruit in Marky Woolbridge. And although he is listed as a tackle recruit, I really think Michigan is taking the NFL draft approach of loading up on mostly tackles and then moving them inside. Instead of trying to recruit the interior offensive lineman, you're getting a better athlete, and then you can tuck them inside, and then you already have your bookends in like Lee and Andrew Babalola, and I think it's just going to make the whole unit better. Kind of similar to what they did with Trevor Keegan when he came out of high school.
That's a great point and a great call out, and we're seeing it happen at the NFL level and with all the NFL through lines on this Michigan staff. Definitely wouldn't surprise me that's something they're looking to do. Wouldn't mind you recruiting true centers and just building them out to be that, just centers, but that's for another podcast. Yeah, Marky, this is going to be impossible for us to not get Mark Wahlberg. We're going to call this guy Mark Wahlberg at some point. Yeah. And the fact that he calls himself Marky with the wall in there, we were going to make some dated Marky Mark references, but that's dated even for you and I. What concerns me is that Mark Wahlberg is starting to become dated. Like, when's his last banger?
Yeah, man, it's
been a minute.
Yeah, because I've seen some of his more recent stuff and didn't really.
Not great.
Yeah, wasn't really for me. I watched the.
Not an Uncle Stu guy.
Yeah, I watched that on a plane, and I only have ever felt worse about myself.
Yeah, watch that on a plane, and I wanted to step outside.
I was like, "Can we open the door, ma'am? I have to get out of here." I mean, ever since Patriots Day, this guy's been coasting.
Yeah, pretty much like Deepwater Horizon guy. Anyway, I digress. Love building out. 6'6", 280. Just a lot of size, a lot of beef coming in. You're gonna leave it for me. Happy to take it. Give me 4-star wide receiver Zion Robinson. As soon as
this is your guy.
As soon as he hit, you texted me.
Yeah, like, you're going to love this kid. I was like, this is your guy.
So we got A.J. Brown. He's coming to play at Michigan. Absolute stud. I think I like him more than Andy Marsh. Like, I'm already doing the boyfriend looking back at the girl walking the other way down the street meme. Like, Zion? And, like, adding to the great name theory. Like, we got a Zion, and a lot we can do with that. But also as a player, my God, his tape. He and Savion Hyder just like sometimes I struggle to figure out how fast are you. You can just tell how fast and physical these two are. on tape. Like, doesn't matter who you're playing against. Like, that guy is fast. That guy is big. He can stretch the field. He's verified 4.46, 6'8" high jumper. Ron Bellamy just like building that is insane. Like, that's more like Nico Collins go up and but he's also fast. Like, so it is like
11 in the 100. I mean, he can.
That's
move,
what I'm saying. Like, so AJ Brown was the comp for me. I'm going to ride that one out. This dude is a stud. And, oh, my God, the weapons Underwood is going to have here by year 2 are going to be just absolutely absurd. And it's a position of need. Like, we don't know. I feel pretty good about Andy Marsh. I feel very confident about Zion Robinson. This is my other one where I would be willing to write it in pen. Maybe permanent marker on the face, not tattoo, just in case.
Dude, he's not even our top receiver prospect. Like, we are firmly in the mix for 5-star Calvin Russell, who also wants to play basketball at Michigan, and Dusty May's been helping recruit him.
This is joyous. We are truly wrapped in the Lord's warm embrace now, my friend.
And you think you like Zion? Calvin Russell is 6'5", 195.
That's a small forward.
Yeah.
Dude.
So, like, that's how much we like Zion and Calvin Russell. We're already in the top 3. We got the biggest threat out of the top 3, which was Syracuse, reportedly. So that one could come by the end of the week. And that doesn't take away from how good Zion Robinson is at making contested catches, man. That's what stood out to me watching his tape. Like, he's just, like, very violent as a receiver. Like, he takes it.
That's why when AJ
very
Brown,
prideful, like, that the ball is his. And I love that about his game. The 6'8" high jump, man, there's no faking that. Like, this kid is just a special kind of athlete.
Yeah, my first thought was like Deebo Samuel, then I went Nico Collins, and then I settled on AJ Brown for a lot of what you're saying. Like, I love what you said earlier. Got some shit to him. Got some shit to his game. Like, a lot of that. Like, there seems to be a trend too. And I think that takes us to Titan Davis. We already talked about. Never mind. Another guy that we're both really high on that has some shit to his game. Yeah,
we talked about him at the very end of last week's pod.
Yeah, that's right. He had just committed.
Have a film study coming out with him on Wednesday, so be on the lookout for that. To one of the next guys, we had a flipped athlete, Markel Dabney, who is probably projected at a linebacker at the next level, but his tape is awesome. Like, he plays receiver and safety right now in high school, and he's a great athlete with, like, elite ball skills and a lot of versatility.
This is tremendous. Like, you know how we feel about getting defenders in that, can complement what we're trying to do there. I haven't gotten around to this tape yet, but I defer to you on this. Glad that you were able to get some of that in there. All right, and then this just happened right before we got on, so I definitely haven't had a chance to look at any Andre Clark, 6'1" defensive back who just recently committed, played in Virginia, had offers from Kentucky, Florida State, SMU. I mean, I like 6'1". That seems to be a theme with a lot of these. Okay, tell me about him. I haven't watched it.
So I just cleared off the rest of the afternoon. Like, I just stopped working. I was like, this is more important. So
we're gonna get fired when our employers listen to our podcast.
It's gonna happen, but I mean, hopefully, we just get picked up and somebody's like, "Hey, we'll pay your salary just to talk ball." That would be ideal.
Sold.
Playmaker, man. He is just like a ball hawking type of playmaker, a game breaker. He has versatility, which I like in the secondary. He can play safety and play corner, and he can switch seamlessly, which is really rare because, like, you got to have a lot of different skill set, got to be able to play the run more as a safety, just require different sets of skills. But he can bounce back and forth, man. Kind of in that, like, Cooper DeJean, maybe Mikey Sainristil, Dax Hill, Brian Branch kind of mold where you can kind of move from one to the other. And I think he's going to be a nice piece, man, and players like that often find a way onto the field pretty early.
Yeah, joins 4-star Brody Jennings in the defensive backfield, another 6'1". They both need to fill out, looking at their frames right now.
They
but
haven't even
that's
played senior years of football yet,
It's to be expected, especially with defensive backs and receivers. Where do you think we need to go here? Up to number 8, Savion Hyder, Calvin Russell, still very much on the board. You and I are dialed in on those recruitments. Like, if not those guys, where else are we looking? We already got our quarterback, who I kind of like. A guy that he's going to get forgotten in this class, but I like Smeagol. Like, that guy can play.
He's still pretty high up there. Michigan did get crystal balled today for 4-star edge Julian Walker. Also, dude, Lou Esposito is cooking. Like,
unbelievable.
When Walker commits, he might go up to the number 1 recruiter in the country rankings. Like, right now, he's ranked 4th. This might put him at the top. And they're not done, man. I mean, Michigan right now firmly in the mix for Hyder, for Russell, have offers out to an athlete, Salisay Moa, Devon Benjamin, a safety out of Westlake, California, like, and in the mix with all these guys, another offensive tackle, a little shorter, probably a guard, and John Turnentine, Braden Rouse, like, they're probably going to miss out on Donovan Webb, the safety. I think Texas Tech made a hefty NIL offer, but that's okay. Like, there's a ton out there right now, and this has all the makings of a top 5, if not a top 3 class.
Big Lou knows his way around some VD and knows his way around the living rooms of a lot of parents in the Virginia area. And this dude is cooking.
We backed into him. Like, lest we forget that we hired Wisconsin's defensive line coach, Scruggs. And then
easy to forget.
He got a DUI, and then he left, and then we brought in Esposito. Like,
all right, so let's rank our favorite DUIs.
You know, we'll save that. Save that for the Patreon.
That's got to be number 1 DUI, though, right?
I mean, it helped out with recruiting. I never saw that coming. Most time they hurt recruiting.
One would think. Yeah. Yeah, man, this has been a tremendous run for this entire coaching staff. Like we said, generational run. We haven't seen anything like it. It's not over. There is more coming. Like we said, Julian Walker could happen by the end of this podcast. We'll keep you posted on that. If Savion Hyder happens, I'm just removing my clothes and walking into Lake Michigan. And I'm just waiting out with a stereo plugged into an extension cord out of happiness.
I'll have to do something to celebrate on the pod because he's my favorite player in this class. Like, I have to do something either like record shirtless or something, or just like do Edward 40 hands on this, although I'm in my mid-30s.
I'll join you.
It's like, we're back to the DUIs. All right, number 1.
My 15th favorite DUI. Andy, still awake?
Do a live pod for that one.
Yeah, we'll have to do something. Maybe we'll just we can go classy route. Just split a bottle of champagne virtually.
That's good. We can do that.
If we get Savion Hyder, yeah. Because I mean, as much as we love Jordan Marshall, different beast. It's a different animal.
It's the frame and everything. I mean, Savion Hyder's in the realm of like running back recruits of like Leonard Fournette, Peterson, those type of guys, like highest of the high.
Yeah. Darren McFadden was a comp that I saw someone throw out there that I kind of liked, and I was like, yeah, it's that level, man. Like, that guy, once again, like, we'll have a couple just can't miss prospects in this same class, and I don't think we're going to catch up with the likes of, like, USC or anything like that, but back-to-back top 7 to top 8 classes with our history of development's really all you need. And, like, I'm extremely excited about this. The all-name class, too. Like, Carter Meadows, fine with it. Zion Robinson, here for it. Malachi Lee, I might not write home about it, but it's fine.
I'm not going to say it to him. He'd rip me in half.
Good.
I saw a post. Somebody was talking about the all-name team. I'm like, they're stealing our bit. Like, we have been
stole
on
our
that
bit
before anybody.
Son of a bitch stole our line.
So... No, man, this class shaping up to be something special and carries on the Michigan tradition of Brady Hoke and Harbaugh both had their strongest class in year 3.
Yeah, now let's see what he can do as a developer, because if he can develop as well as Harbaugh did, oh boy. All right, we are back. We are righteous men, and with us, another righteous man. That is Zack Gugenheim, co-host of the Big Ten Huddle Podcast, former host of Big Ten Football Talk, and honestly just one of the better Ohio State fans, reasonable humans with a nice-looking tan. Can't say enough nice things about him. Thanks for joining us, Zack. How are you, my friend?
I am good. Happy to yuck it up with you guys, and I can concur. 2 of my favorite Michigan friends, so it's a delight to talk rivalry and to talk football. Couple months away, guys. Excited for it.
It's crazy how fast it's getting here. Like, I was looking at the calendar and we're mapping out some podcast content, and I'm like, good God, like, we get the team previews in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
I know. It's already time to start looking at, like, position groups. We're already kind of peeking ahead to a couple of the matchups early season. Like, I know you've got the schedule locked down. Like, I know you're looking at all that stuff at this point.
Well, hey, I mean, when week 1 is Ohio State, Texas, and week 2 is Michigan, Oklahoma,
There it is.
It's a lot to get excited about.
He's locked in. I knew it. Glad to have you here, my friend. We had to have you here, I mean, for a number of reasons. We would have done this regardless, but the fact of the matter is Michigan, Ohio State have gone back-to-back on national champions. I don't think that's ever happened before. Andy, you're the historian. You'll have to check me on that one. Certainly hasn't happened in our lifetime, and it really feels like the rivalry is back. That being said, it's at a weird place. So Give me your 30,000-foot view. What is the state of the rivalry after back-to-back national championships, but a little bit of a run here for Michigan within the game?
Yeah, so it's funny because, and I was starting to tell you this pre-show, I think my impression of the rivalry when all of the expanded playoff started to come out was the rivalry is going to, it's going to lessen, right? Or at least the impact of the rivalry is going to lessen. And here is my short thesis, is that expanded playoff has actually made the rivalry better. And here's why. Ohio State just won a national championship, and there are still lingering concerns that last Saturday in November for one Ryan Day. And I say that as someone who I feel like Ryan Day has acquitted himself very well in big games. You know, he just won 4 in a row, including against Texas, who I thought had an equal roster to Ohio State, or at least
comparable,
equal. You know, he won big games. He won all of those games by double digits, right? So if anyone proved himself more than anyone else this season, it's Ryan Day. And yet there is still a lot of concern about that last Saturday. And I still think if Ohio State loses that last Saturday, I don't think Ryan Day will be called to be fired, but there will be a lot of angst. And here's the beautiful thing about it. Despite the fact that Ohio State went on to win a national championship, Michigan can hold that loss over Ohio State for 365 days a year. And as a fan, I hate it. But as a lover of rivalries, that's still being held over Ohio State, and that's still burning everybody up inside. And so despite the fact, like, I have the 90s losses burned and etched in my soul, right? Like Sean Springs slips, 96. And part of the reason why it made the rivalry great then was because of the stakes. Granted, the stakes aren't as high, but now you see what the rivalry does and how it's held over a team's head. And you guys even said it pre-show, it propelled Ohio State to new heights. So I think from one perspective, it gives added motivation. It still has bragging rights, and it still brings lingering concerns. All of those things, I think, play out to actually maximize the rivalry rather than make it not as impactful.
My only concern with that is, and that was well spoken, is what happens if it's very similar to 2022 or 2023 when it's 11-0 versus 11-0, and then they play that game, and then they play the week later, and then they're in the bracket. Like, 3 different times. Like, I don't know. I'm a little more of a traditionalist in the sense, like, I like that one to mean so much. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to, say, 2 matchups. Say, in the regular season and in the playoff, you could see something
almost
like that.
happened in 06.
Exactly. Almost happened in 06. And I don't know. I worry about the 3 times because it's like, okay, the first one doesn't matter. We're going to play again in a week at a neutral site. Like, I don't know. It would take a little bit of just the majesty away from the moment, man. Like, I get what you're saying. Every game is going to mean something because it means everything to us as fans. It means everything to the players. Like, there's not going to be like, yeah, we're just going to phone this one in. Like, it's still Ohio State, Michigan. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's an interest, and I agree with that thought, Andy, in the fact that I think maybe if I can put it in a different perspective here, I think the unknown makes it concerning, right? Because what happens if you have back to back to back? And I would give, and this is anecdotal, so like feel free to interact on this. I remember 2022, Ohio State loses. Not that I remember, but 45 to 23. Not that I remember Donovan Edwards going for 2 long touchdowns against us. Not at all.
It pleases us to hear you say it.
It does bring us joy.
That's what I'm here for. But the thing I remember for literally for 6 weeks straight, I'm like, I don't want to watch Ohio State Georgia. They didn't deserve to get in. They didn't deserve to get in. As soon as the ball snapped, I'm like, I'm in.
That's a great point.
What happened? And that's not to say that there may not be fatigue and I think that is probably the biggest concern. But I do wonder what happens, like when it actually does happen, and I think it will.
It's gonna happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I still think, especially with the NIL, the ruling and everything going on, if that continues to play out as we think it will, I think Ohio State and Michigan are probably best prepared, especially after, I don't mean this. I don't mean to be trite about this, but when Phil Knight passes away, like I think the Oregon money is going to dry up, the Nike money is going to dry up a little bit. Ohio State, Michigan, I think they're going to be the players as they always have been. I'm not saying Oregon's going away.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Completely, but I think there's been a concerted effort for Oregon to get in there. But you see how Ohio State and how Michigan's recruiting. Carter Meadows, big time recruit. They got another 247 recruit today, top corner. This is not like these two teams are going to at some point meet twice and maybe even three times, and that'll test the theory. My personal thought is we'll almost prepare ourselves to be fatigued, and then we'll get to it and we'll be like, this is actually better than I
think
expected.
I think a fear easily is whatever team wins, it always feels like, you survived the game. You don't really win the game, you survive the game.
That's a great point.
And then it just feels like you're going to get got.
We're all going to age so much if we play 3 times a year, because I aged about 5 to 6 years each time.
You mentioned the 2022 game. Jared and I were watching that together, and it was just like it felt like Michigan's hanging on. And then the final score really wasn't indicative of the battle that took place for 3.5 quarters. And then it's like you match up again, and then say you get smoked. It's like, well, kind of lessens it a little bit for me. Doesn't feel as good. Or it's like when Ohio State wins in 2006. Like if they'd met up again, like how would we feel after that if they had lost that Troy Smith year? It just, I don't know. That's one of those fears. Like I definitely feel, but I think you're right, Zach. It's more of like a fear of the unknown, because no matter when it happens, like we're gonna get up. I just don't want to look back at like the last game of November and be like, man, that game didn't mean as much anymore. It wasn't important because we just got smoked in the playoff.
Yeah,
it's a good thought.
I hear where you're coming from. I hear both sides of the take, and I mean, nothing we can do about it now, but just see how it plays out. There's going to be rematches 100%, and we were talking off air about it a little bit, just because we're all coming to this as fans, like we see it completely differently. Like when we beat you and you made it into the playoff, we were like, they're going on a run. Yeah. We were never more sure of anything in our life. We're like, that loss is going to wake them up. They are going on a run. We're like, it's up to Texas. We were already eyeing Texas early on, because Andy and I were like, they're the only ones.
100%. Jared and I were looking at the bracket, like we knew it was a hard road, but like we're just like, it needs to be harder. There needs to be more here.
There needs to be more in their way.
Like I just thought Tennessee coming north was going to be bad news. I thought the matchup with Landanning was going to go south for them. I'm like, all right, Texas could be close. That's the one. And then it was close towards the end until Sawyer's strip sack touchdown. I'm like, yeah, they're going to win it.
Yeah.
They're going to win it.
They'll win the whole thing. Yeah.
It's funny that, so no lie, I turned off the TV with the Texas game. I was so mad when it was 14-14, and I'm like, Ryan Day's turtling. It's Michigan all over again. And then I had it on my phone because I saw that they scored, and I'm like, okay, maybe I can. I
appreciate that level of ridiculously, by the way. But I can't watch it on the big screen. Yeah. I got to have it on this little tiny one.
Well, and so I'm watching on my phone. My wife's getting ready for bed, and I'm looking at it, and all of a sudden I see the strip sack, and I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Fire it back up.
Get that thing back up on the TV. Come on. But I think that's what, like, in a sense, that's what Michigan did to me, in a sense, as a fan, which sounds crazy.
Brother, we went through the losing on the other side.
It really
it's
does
not.
It does not. Like, I was revisiting the 2018 game for an article recently, and just like,
still hurts.
The helplessness and the fear of winning 10 games in a row, the revenge tour, all this. Ohio State had been super vulnerable that season, and just it was like pistol whipping a blind
dog walked.
Kid. We were just getting slapped again and again. It's like, so trust me, we know the pain to just feel like a beaten dog.
Yeah, which I think it's, to going back to and I think this is something that I appreciate about college football especially, which is why I think it'll never die, is the narratives. And I think that was the beautiful thing of this playoff. I think that was the beautiful thing about 2023 for Michigan and J.J. McCarthy and him, like, committing to Michigan. And
well, it's like they laid the foundation for Ohio State to replicate the same thing the next year. Like, we're all coming back for one cause, one purpose. Let's get the job done.
Yep. And I think because of that, regardless how certain fans feel, and we might feel jaded by the year that they play 3 times, but I think we'll look back at the stories, because that's how things are remembered ultimately. Like, this title will be remembered as the story of those seniors coming back. Like, stories like Travion Henderson, who, like, I still think it's one of my favorite interviews is he's talking about needing forgiveness after he hit a guy. But, like, he asked for forgiveness on the sideline, but then he goes for 75 yards on a screenplay to end the half, and you're like, that is a story that at least I will remember for the next however long.
As someone rooting for the other story to happen, like, I can attest that was a very strong and powerful story that we witnessed.
It was strong. So that actually takes me to my next question, which is, like, where does this team rank for you? Like, I mean, we already kind of talked about your feelings about the Michigan loss and what that does for it, but it was still like an incredible season. There are some great stories there, but you've seen other national championships with Ohio State. So where does this one rank?
Oh, it's tough, because if you say, like, if you're a traditionalist, it's dead last in the 3 that I've seen, because 02 was magical, right? It was undefeated.
You guys were nasty.
Yeah, that defense was
really good.
Just it was insane, and you dethroned Miami, right? The 34-game win streak. You beat Michigan for the 2nd straight year, which I hadn't seen in my lifetime at that point. So I was a 16-year-old kid, and all I knew was, oh, we're playing Michigan this week. Loss. That was life. And then 2014, it's hard to beat the 3-quarterback story with Braxton going down.
Couldn't believe it.
JT going down. But this might be a cop-out. I think this one had the highest highs, because and certainly the lowest low, right? Like, the Michigan loss, I mean, the lowest low for 2014 was losing to Virginia Tech, and then JT going down. Like, losing to Virginia Tech, 2nd game of the year, that's nothing compared to losing to Michigan, who, like, no offense, didn't have a quarterback.
We didn't have our passing attack only ranked ahead of 3 service academies and trailed Iowa.
Right.
That's just facts.
You made my point. Made my point, right?
It was a disaster.
And that disaster beat Ohio State and Alabama, which, you know, I give a lot more crap to Alabama because they lost to a 2nd-string defensive line, which is still going to be nasty this year. But I think the low lows, I think, make the high highs.
That makes sense
for what Ohio State accomplished, because you got to realize they beat 2. While Texas, I still think of as a Big 12 team, they are in the SEC, and, like, that's been a monkey on Ryan Day's back, and he beats 2.
Yeah.
They get revenge on Oregon, and they do it in the Rose Bowl. They beat Notre Dame, which, I mean, Notre Dame hasn't beaten Ohio State in 90 years, but still, there is a prestige about that, and it's the first 12-team playoff. It's, you know, so you have all these different high watermarks for this season. So I don't know. I think there's a part of me that wants to rank it first just because of the adversity, but and again, I 5 top 5 AP wins, which no team has ever done. But I also am a prisoner of the moment, and I would have said the same thing about '02 and like, oh, we beat the best team of all time in Miami in 14. We beat. So I'll give you the best cop-out answer of they're all tied. They're great.
Picking your favorite child.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And they're all special for very different reasons, I think. And I think for you guys, I'd imagine 97 to 2023. Like, would you guys agree with that, or do you guys have a favorite
23.
out of those two seasons?
2023.
Because
Yeah, because it was undisputed.
And 97 you have the share because like
fair.
you didn't have the BCS yet, so there's nothing definitive. Like it just like you play Washington State in kind of a game that was like felt a little lackluster to close the year anyway. And it was like, plus I was younger than anyway. I think I was only 7 or 8.
I was 9.
Yeah, so
I remember it, but not well, not like the plays,
like,
you know.
But again, you talk about like that adversity, and like I mean, Michigan had it similarly in 2023 with Jim Harbaugh being suspended, and you get the bet tweets online in Happy Valley, and then you go on the run. You get that kind of arc of the story that every good story has. And similar to what Ohio State had, like you had the lowest of the lows. You lost to the worst Michigan team in a long time in a full season. And this is supposed to be the Ohio State redeemed team. We're going to do it. And you lose there. It was a dark day to be online for an Ohio State fan. I admire any that just stayed off the keyboard because it was a great day to do so. But then but without that, you don't get the fun story all the way through. Like, I mean, Oregon would gladly swap places with you, going undefeated all year, winning the Big Ten championship, and then getting smoked in the Rose Bowl. We
always say don't let them beat you twice. Like they didn't let Michigan beat them twice. They didn't get down, and that's like such a credit to that group. The fact that they all stayed together. They were like, no, we're not gonna like let that stop our goals. We got a chance to go on a run here, and that run they looked like the best team, like right out of the gate. It was like that, a scary team.
If you want to speak to Ryan Day as a coach, rallying the troops like that, that's what you point to.
Yeah.
Like, you can talk about the Michigan problem or whatever you want, but, like, he rallied the troops after one of the hardest losses in program history and got them ready to win a national championship, and I commend him for that.
Yeah, and I think, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this. I think the thing that impressed me, so I needed to be off of Twitter or X or whatever we call it nowadays.
Good advice.
I needed to be. I wasn't. I shot off a few Fire Ryan Day tweets. I own that. And because I was wrong. And I think it's easy to criticize a coach when he's down. And I think I thought Harbaugh got so much hate early in his tenure at Michigan. And I kept saying, guys, you keep, like, he had a good first year, and that set him up for Twitter warriors saying he was a bad coach. That 2015 team wasn't supposed to be a 10.
That roster was
team.
So bad. If you go back,
it's so bad. When we go back on it, it's not good.
Yeah, and so that's why, like, everybody was saying he's a bad coach. He's a bad coach. Ohio State fans saying they want Harbaugh there forever. I'm like, guys, you don't want Harbaugh there forever. Because at some point he's gonna get it rolling, and he did, and he worked through adversity. And I think similarly, Ryan Day, you look at who he recruits, and this is my thought at the end of the day, and why I love where these programs are at right now, regardless of the off-field smoke in Ann Arbor right now. There is a real concerted effort to get the right guys in these programs who, when all the money is talking, and not that money's bad, but when all the money's talking, all the glitz and glamour is out there, you've got two hard-nosed coaches who are finding the right guys to put in their system to not only be good football players, but to be good young men. And that's what, again, that's to me is what college football is all about. And that's, I think, why the rivalry is set up to be great for the next several years, as long as Ryan.
Well, every school has attrition with the transfer portal, but like Michigan, Ohio State, you don't see the big guys coming in and playing and then leaving like that. They're committed to the program, they're developing, and I think that really fosters the culture of winning and just like a positive culture in general that you're alluding to.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's interesting with Ryan Day because it's a big year for him to get over that hump, and it could be a similar story. Like, we definitely have respect for what that guy can do offensively. Some shakeups to the coaching staff, though, that as a Lions fan, I was kind of looking at with a little bit of a side eye. But what do you think about the rest of the coaching staff compared to what you're replacing and what you had with obviously a very great defensive coordinator, at least in my opinion, in Jim Leonhard?
Yeah. I think it's a wait and see, right? Because, Knowles was unreal as a defensive coordinator, right? Like, and I think a lot of people think Penn State.
Oh, I said Jim Leonhard. Excuse me.
We knew who you meant. You're fine.
Yeah, you're good. A lot of people think it's going to take Knowles time to get Penn State up and running. Penn State's got a lot of personnel coming back. I think they're going to be just fine. I think Matt Patricia is certainly a question mark. The thing that excites me about him is he actually looks very rejuvenated, which is encouraging because I think when he was at the Lions, he did not look rejuvenated.
No.
He looked miserable.
So were we.
So, yeah, I think everybody in Detroit was miserable when he was there. So, now, it's easy to be rejuvenated in June. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's also easy to be rejuvenated when you have Caleb Downs
that helps
as your safety. So that helps a lot. But the big question, I think, for him is, will he work well with Larry Johnson? There's been some rumor that Larry Johnson and Jim Knowles did not see eye to eye, and that's why the defense was a little discombobulated several times throughout Jim Knowles' tenure. Like, it was great. It was a very, very talented defense, really complex, but there was smoke. I don't want to say it's absolutely true, but smoke that there was some disconnect between them. So I think that's going to be key. A lot of defensive line losses for Ohio State, uncertainty there.
Why do you think Knowles left? Because it wasn't even a lateral move in our opinion. We think it's a step down.
Yeah, I think there was some miscommunication, and how much do I speculate?
Speculate wildly. It's what we do.
Wildly.
Wildly. There was I think there was some thought that the way Knowles approached maybe a contract extension or a raise was not the greatest. Okay. And in turn, Ryan Day and Ohio State maybe didn't operate on the timetable that he would have liked. And some of this was coming right during the national championship run. And so in the midst of that, I think Knowles was fielding calls, and Penn State was like, we can get one up on a rival? Yeah, let's do it. And I think he took the opportunity to go, and he went.
Not to defend Ryan Day here, but, we're having a parade, Jim. Can you give me 9 hours? Then we could sit down and, talk turkey, but, the beer is cold. We need to go get this thing right now. So, yeah, it was a very wonky kind of situation. Jared and I talked about this after the 23 season, the success tax. It's what you have to pay after you win a championship, and we saw it with Michigan losing coordinators, losing a ton, having a big roster upheaval, trying to get it back. And I think we've kind of learned our lesson a little bit about that. The confetti is still kind of on you as the season kicks off, and it's really hard to shake off right away. So, how are you feeling about this team leading in the next season? Is there a little worry about that? There's so many new pieces. There's so much unknown going on, but I feel like the expectations haven't changed at all nationally, and that can be very dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, thankfully we start with the cupcakes.
Yeah, right off the bat. Just the semifinal.
Ease into it a little bit.
Yeah. Thanks, Gene Smith, for getting that one on the schedule. Yeah, I'm excited about that game, and there is the beauty of you're coming off a national championship. You kind of feel like, all right, this year, if we go 9-3, I won't love it, but we won a championship last year, so you kind of learn.
We had that
with
same
it.
umbrella out when we came to Columbus at the end of the year. We're like, you know what? We still have a national championship. We've won a few in a row. It'll keep the rain away for a while. It's not going to be fun, but, I mean, things can work out differently. So we definitely know that. Like, I mean, I think every introduction on our podcast last year, Jared said, and we are still national champions.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, we soaked it up every last minute of it, as you should as well.
Yeah. I think Ohio State, there's a lot of excitement with Julian Sayin, and I think there's a lot of excitement with Brian Hartline taking over. I think he's finally, at least Ryan Day feels like
Is he
he's
fully
ready,
taking over
Ryan
this
Day
time?
feels
Because I know they kind of like tried in 22 a little bit.
Yeah, and I think Brian Hartline was still needed time to learn, and so Chip Kelly. You asked about coordinators moving on. I think a lot of people expected Chip Kelly to stay 2 or 3 years, but I think realistically Ryan Day knew it was probably one and done. Like, hey, come and win us a natty, and then go off to the NFL. It'll help both of us. And I think it was meant to help Brian Hartline get ready. But Julian Sayin has the best wide receiving core in college football. Max Clare adds a new
good tight
dimension
end
that we haven't seen. I mean, Jeremy Ruckert was probably the best receiving tight end we've had, and even then, I thought he was a little overhyped. Right. Max Clare's not overhyped. He's the real deal. He's gonna be in the running to be our best tight end receiving wise, probably since Ricky Dudley in '95. I mean, so you're talking about a really good. I think he'll surpass Kate Stover. Stover had a great year in 23. But you're talking about Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Inniss, and I'm not even sure Brandon Inniss is going to be the number 3 by the end of the season, because he's really good. He's going to be a great slot receiver. But I think Mylan Graham and Porter are nipping at his heels. I mean, those are, again, you're talking about all 5-star guys. And the offensive line, questions at the tackle marks, but they went and got Okinawa and Daniels at tackle. I think the interior of that offensive line is going to be really stout. Hinsman, he came in at the second half of the season and really put in some good minutes. Montgomery is a name to watch. He came in several times during that playoff run and had some really impactful moments, especially against Notre Dame and Tennessee and Oregon. So I think they're set up well on offense. Shocker. The question is defense, right? That defensive line, there's a lot of hype, but the depth is my concern. So you have Atkinson come in from North Carolina, Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson. Edric Houston's going to slide and say Caden McDonald, who is kind of our run-stopping specialist on goal lines. He's going to get more minutes. After that, there's a lot of question marks. And so does Tywan Malone finally flash like we thought he would when he came out of Ole Miss? Does someone else kind of rise up? We're not sure. It didn't look great in the spring game. But the back seven's all there. Like the back seven, there's a lot of excitement. Jermaine Matthews is going to take over for Denzel Burke at that corner spot. The linebackers, I think Sonny Styles is finally starting to live up to the hype that we thought. Arvell Reese is going to be a dude. I think there's a question who's going to replace Lathan Ransom, who I thought had about as good of a season as anybody on that defense. Especially he had some rough moments in 22 and 23.
I mean, it's very unfair because, like, every Michigan fan knows Lathan Ransom as from Gus Johnson with, he gets by Ransom. But, like, no, he actually played, like, there was a case to be made that he was the second best person in that secondary behind Downs last year. Like, he was really good.
I mean, that safety duo was really good. But I think that's a question mark of who's going to replace him. But I think the back seven should be solid, if not spectacular. But that front four can make a spectacular back seven look average. So that's I think the big question, which again that speaks to who are going to be the tough games on your schedule. Texas, they can run the ball. Penn State, they can run the ball. Illinois, they can run the ball. Michigan obviously can run the ball. So and you look at those running back duos, Penn State and Michigan, those are probably, if they're not both top 3, they might be the top 2, honestly, if not top 3 or top 5.
I mean, the one good thing, like, that you can always talk to and point at if you're an Ohio State fan and you're looking at all the question marks, is you arguably have the best offensive player in college football and the best defensive player in college football on each side of the ball. And having those, that's a great place to start.
Yeah. Yeah, and sorry, go ahead.
No, absolutely. No, you're here to tell us the gospel, brother. I want to hear from you.
Okay. I think just to that point, it allows you to be more creative, and it gives you margin for error, which is, I think,
it's also an attraction to others. Like we're feeling it with Bryce Underwood in recruiting right now. Like having proven commodities like that makes it easier to land transfer players.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I want to play with Bryce Underwood. Well, yeah, quarterbacks want to play with the receivers that Ohio State has.
So is Sayin at this point a known commodity? Like, what are you hearing out of camp? How sure of a thing is this? Because we look at, we're trying to look at this already way out here. It's June 30th. It's not even July yet. And we're already looking into November saying, like, all right, he's got to come to the big house. Like, but he's got some big games on the schedule. You mentioned that schedule, Texas, early on. So it's Sayin for sure. We're saying that, it sounds like. But how sure of a thing is he?
Yeah, I think, I'm the king of cop-outs, I guess, on this show. I think it's a wait and see, right? He's got all the talent in the world, right? Like, he's got the arm talent. I think you saw the flashes of why he was the number 1 quarterback prospect when he committed to Alabama a couple years ago in the spring game. But if you listen to Ohio State insiders in camp, spring ball, it was neck and neck with Lincoln Kienholz, and Lincoln Kienholz is a fine player. Like, I think, people will look at the Cotton Bowl from a couple years ago against Mizzou and be like, he's terrible. He was thrown into an impossible.
That team didn't want to be there. Like, come on. Like, that's a hard sample to draw from.
Yeah, he was thrown. It was a terrible situation for him. You're absolutely right. They didn't want to be there. But if the hope with Ohio State in fall camp, and this is, I think, what's important for people to look for, is if it's clear that Julian Sayin is running away with it in fall camp, that is a very good sign that he's taken.
That's Jared's point all the time.
Yeah.
You don't want it tight going into the first week.
Yeah, and to be fair, if Ryan Day will keep it close to the vest, so like he'll say, it's neck and neck. But if he's like 2023 with Devin Brown and Kyle McCord, if he's like, they're going to trade series, it's like, this is not good. Like, Mayday, something is wrong. And it was wrong. Like, I like Kyle McCord. I thought he got some unfair hate. But, like, he was not, like, he wasn't CJ. He wasn't Justin. Honestly, he was not Will Howard from a command standpoint. Like, Will Howard was not as talented, certainly, but his command of the offense was so much better than Kyle. And that might have been experience and whatnot. He certainly had command at Syracuse. But I think that's going to be the telltale sign. So, Jared, you're 100% money on that with Ohio State. If Sayin is the guy a week out from Texas, I think you have something special. I think if you're going neck and neck and you're like they might rotate series, it's going to be rough. And it's going to be a rough schedule because I'm on record already. I think at Illinois is an upset for I think Illinois upsets Ohio State because it's a tricky road slate. If you look at their schedule, so they get Texas at home, which is great, and then some cupcakes. They go at Washington, Minnesota at home, at Illinois, and at Wisconsin.
It's a much tougher schedule this year.
Weeks. Yeah, and like at Washington's not going to be easy either. But like I think because it's on a bye, I think they'll get past that. But then you've got Minnesota, who's, I'm
a little lower.
They're plucky. They're plucky though.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I agree. I think they are going to be better in the second half of the season.
It's a good
but
take.
they're not going to be as good as last year. You're right. But then at Illinois, in that wind tunnel in Champaign, I don't love it. And then to go, I'm not high on Wisconsin, but you got to go to Camp Randall, and they're going to be desperate to get wins
never
for
easy.
Luke Fickell. Yeah, so I don't love that stretch of games. I think a lot of people, a lot of SEC honks will probably look at some one-score games in that stretch and be like, "Oh, Ohio State's not very good because they're beating not so good teams." And it's like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. By the way, Diego Pavia just spouted off again. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
I have that in our notes. I was just going to go there. You're the king of transitions. Where is the Big Ten at this year? It kind of feels like it might be a little bit of a down year with you guys losing a lot, having to reload. Michigan, well, we'll wait and see. I think we're going to be better, but playoff team, I don't know. It feels like it might be Penn State carrying the torch. Maybe Illinois and Indiana can sneak in. But where do you think the Big Ten stands versus the SEC as a whole and this year in particular?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think you have to keep in mind that the SEC powers, with the exception of, well, I was going to say with the exception of Texas, but even Texas had a lot of losses. I think Alabama lost 10 or 12 players. Georgia lost several. Texas, I think, had 12 players drafted in the draft as well. And so there is a lot of turnover at the top. And so if you think back to a year ago, everybody had the same 4 teams at the top. It was Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, and Oregon. And a lot of people thought Alabama was a 5th. I think out of muscle memory, I think you see a lot of that again. But Alabama has a lot to prove. And honestly, Kalen DeBoer has a lot to prove at Alabama. Georgia has a lot to prove. And Gunnar Stockton has a lot to prove in that offense. Arch Manning has a lot to prove at Texas. Because as much as people are saying he's the heir apparent, there's a lot of questions there. And then there's a lot of teams where people keep saying, well, they would be good if DJ Lagway in Florida, Tennessee without Nico.
South Carolina just lost their every
good.
defensive lineman not named Dylan Stewart.
Right. And so the Big Ten has lost a lot of players, but so has the SEC.
It's a great take.
And so actually I think a couple takes. One is I expect the Big Ten to get at least 3, if not 4 teams in again.
And I'm not writing Michigan out, just for the record here.
You're just being nice. I know you're doing.
I'm just being friendly.
Yeah. No, well, and I like if Underwood hits, and I think that's the key thing. If Underwood hits, if you guys win in Norman, as much as as bad as Oklahoma might be this year, again, they lost to Navy. That's going to be a feather in their cap. If they get to 9-3 or 10-2, that's a potential at large. I think Illinois. I think the winner, the low key, early game of the season in the Big Ten is Illinois, Indiana.
Ooh. Oh yeah, all eyes on that one. Yeah, and I'm in on Indiana again too. I think they're going to be really good again.
Yes, Mendoza's
that's my guy.
Good. I like Mendoza better than
good,
Mateer. Mateer's he's a wild man sometimes, and he's not very accurate. And I think that can, against the Michigan secondary, that could be rough for him.
Yeah, I totally agree. JR and I were just having a conversation on the huddle about Mateer, and we were like, he certainly has talent. Like it's not that he's talentless, but I think if you're expecting the Cam Ward, I couldn't remember his first name for a minute.
He's not Cam Ward.
I think you're going to be
like he doesn't throw the ball like Cam Ward. I mean, it's hard to put him in to a box, but he's very much a Texas gunslinging quarterback and will do some wheeling dealing, but he just doesn't have that high end talent. He's just missing just a little bit that you can't have that makes him reckless. He is exciting, he can run the ball and do some things, and I know they have Jaden Knott running the football behind him, but still have a lot of questions about that offense. And the one thing you can't do against the Michigan team is turn the ball over. You just can't give an offense too many opportunities like that.
Yeah. And Venables has not found a way. Now, I know he has a new offensive coordinator, but he has not done a good job of coordinating offenses for
No.
his teams. And so you're talking about a defense that just went ham on Alabama, who I think had their whole offensive line in that game.
And Milroe.
And yeah, they had Milroe. I'm sorry, I would trust Michigan's defense against the Sooners absolutely right now with the freshman quarterback.
I mean, not to get off on a Michigan tangent because we're here to talk about you, but we feel good about our defense for sure. It's not going to lose a step.
Honestly, though, it's one of those things. I wrote about it this week. Came out today. Talking about what is success for Bryce Underwood, and I looked at some recent true freshman quarterbacks and going through it in Michigan history and just national history. And for him to really be successful this year, he needs to be like 2022 J.J. McCarthy, where it's like just do a little bit, but you're mostly a game manager. Let the defense cook, protect the football, do some things. Honestly, if all things were being equal, I think Michigan's ideal starting timeline for him would be to have him start after Nebraska in week 4. Because in 2 of the first 4 games, you face 2 of the hardest defenses on your schedule on the road. At Oklahoma, at Nebraska. You could be without Sharon Moore for all 4 games. We're still waiting to find out about that. And if Mikey Keem were healthy, I think that would be the move. Have him play those first 4 games. Then you have a bye week to let Bryce Underwood officially become the starter, then start him at Wisconsin. But I think that luxury is gone. We're no longer afforded that because McKean is hurt. We just bought in some terrible quarterback transfer from East Carolina, who Jared and I both cannot stand. So it's going to be trial by fire for Underwood, and it's going to be up to the staff to just be like, okay, game manager, very slow, pound the rock, and thankfully they have 2 good running backs and experience their line to get to do that.
Well, counterpoint. When I'm teaching my child to swim, I'm just going to huck him into a lake. There's 2 ways of parenting.
Well, Jared's had 2 kids die, so the third one made it, though. The third one's a hell of a swimmer.
He's a rugged boy. He's a strong boy. Zach, before we get you out of here, I mean, and there's no rush. We're happy to stay on it and chat, but I have to do this exercise with you. I want you to talk us into why Ohio State will beat Michigan in Ann Arbor this year, and then, Andy, you've got our rebuttal. We have to do it. Give the people what they want.
Yeah. So I don't know if I can pick Ohio State until I see it, if I'm honest. But I do think that I will say this. There is a part of me that wonders if Ryan Day has always done better as a front runner than he has as a come from behind guy. And that I don't mean that as a slight to him. It's just I feel like you guys have always done better as the gritty underdog.
The underdog,
the blue collar. Whereas 2019 is a really good example. I mean, that 2019 Michigan team was pretty good, and Ohio State smoked them. And the reason why is because they just leaned into who they were, which is they're just going to beat you up. They're going to let Chase Young run off the edge and just beat Chase Young. They're going to let J.K. Dobbins be J.K. Dobbins. They're going to let Justin Fields.
Don Brown was a zone defense atheist. That helped too.
Yeah, that very much so. But I think when he knew he had advantages and it could exploit them and had that confidence, he's just a better coach when he does that. And you saw that against Tennessee, Oregon, Notre Dame. But again, against Notre Dame and against Texas, you saw a little bit of he tightens up a little bit. And that's why I turned off the Texas game for a little bit. I'm like, God, don't tighten up. But I think you kind of have a get-out-of-jail free card with Jeremiah Smith. And whether that's throwing the ball to him, and granted, Michigan did a heck of a job defending.
Oh, yeah, he was double covered almost every snap. That was the thing when people were getting on the play calling. It's like Michigan was baiting them into it. They were dropping everybody. It just happened that we had 2 first-rounders in the interior.
Yeah, and it's let's run right.
I was like,
Mason
you could have run on the edges a little bit more. You could have done some of that because the toss play early with Judkins worked well. But it's let's do some draws inside. It's well, that's a bold one, man.
This was. I think my hand was almost glued to my face after because I was just. Why would you do that? But I do think obviously they have an advantage against every back seven they play, and so that we've seen that's been true every year the past several with Ohio State against Michigan. So that doesn't guarantee a victory, but I do think if Ryan Day and Brian Hartline can scheme it up and get an early lead and be who I think they should be, which is, hey, be who you are, be the front runner. Don't try to out tough Michigan. Like, you don't need to prove yourself anymore in being tough. Just throw the dang ball. Be creative in the run game. Don't abandon the run game, but be creative. Get on the edge. I think they have a shot. But if you're asking me what's my percentages, I'd say 40%. I do think there is still a significant mental edge that Michigan has over Ohio State.
Michigan did the same thing. They tried to get speed and space, and they tried to beat Ohio State at their own game. Tried to be like, hey, let's get on the outside, let's do this. But it was until they got back to who they are, that's when they found success, and that goes to your Ohio State point. And I think if you're saying Ohio State's going to win this game, it's a true freshman quarterback in the game. And it's like you force him to beat you. Like, he has all the talent in the world, but he's never played in the game. He'll be 18 at the time. Like, that's so young to be in this kind of environment. You force him to make the throws. It'll be cold out. If there's snow coming down, we'd love that. But like, as Ohio State, you want to force them to do that. The Michigan side of the thing is, you talked about the Ohio State front four on defense. And you're going to have to see how that holds up against the run. And Michigan is going to run the air out of the football in this game. And they are just coming off a game where they beat Ohio State's best team in a decade with arguably Michigan's worst team in a decade. And now you're bringing back a lot of that defense, a lot of experienced offense. An offensive coordinator that knows how to spell football really helps. Has a little bit of experience there.
Big improvement.
And I just think Sharon Moore in year two, I think that year one was, again, the confetti was on his shoulders all year, especially in that condensed offseason. There was a lot of glad handing. Let's get the gang back together. Let's just promote everybody from within. And then after that start to the year, I think there was a lot of evaluation program-wide to just, like, raise all the ships, get the bad ones out of there. And now I think they're in a great position to do some things, especially in a year when Ohio State has so many question marks. Like you talked about, it's hard to phrase the pro argument when you just don't know so many things without just projecting wildly. Like, you know what you know, but that's like 4 starters on defense. It's like, okay, there's one. All right, the rest of them are gone. Damn. Okay. Yep. And you've got to run it back quickly.
That's a good point.
In an attempt to be unbiased with a Michigan shirt on, a signed Michigan helmet, and a map of the big house behind me, a lot of this matchup sounds like it could come down to who develops on this Ohio State defensive line and who develops on this Michigan offensive line, because that's the one thing I'm looking at where I'm like, would like to see a little bit more growth there, a few more sure things. So that battle in the trenches this year isn't decided yet. So I'm very interested to see what happens there.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I am very curious. Here's maybe a tell to look out for if you're a Michigan fan, playing psychological edges. How is Ryan Day talking the week before the game?
Oh my goodness, dude! I'm so glad you brought this up. Like, go ahead. Like, because things he was saying before last year's game, Jared and I were like, dude, it's just a game. Like, settle down.
Wasn't he bring it like emoting his father or something like that?
We lived this stuff.
The death of his.
Was like, it's like the death of my father was the only pain I felt similar. It's like, oh my, I feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, I think if there is some more of those like ESPN Game Day, Tom Rinaldi type pieces where it's like, this is everything. This is going to sound sacrilegious. I almost feel like Ryan Day needs to tone down his personal stake in the rivalry. Yeah, he needs to train his guys to and I think he's doing that. I think the thought that they don't care about Michigan is obviously that's not true. Like, they were devastated after that loss. But I think if he's loose, and I think this is getting back to who is he and who are they? If he's loose, he is and it's like anybody else. Like, if you learn how to channel that stress and be loose and be fiery, that will indicate a lot of what I think about going into that game, which is, if he's loose, I feel a lot better. I'm not going to guarantee a win because X's and O's still matter, but I think that actually is a big key to this game is Ryan Day like, does he look like he's sleeping that week? Because if he's not sleeping, I feel very concerned. But if he's actually able to sleep and he feels loose and he's excited for the game, I think that's a good sign.
Even after the game, Jared and I were like talking to each other, hanging out. We're like, is it bad that we feel so bad for Ryan Day? Because his coaching record's impeccable. Like, he's now lost only 2 Big Ten teams, if adding Oregon into the mix, and that's it. Like, you talk about being a front runner, it's because he smokes everybody else in the conference. It has no failures there, but obviously we know as Michigan fans how much weight is held in that last game and how just unbearable it is when year in and year out you're like, this is the year. Like, I understand that loss last year for you felt kind of how we did in 2016 and 2018 when you're like, it's finally over. We have the team. We're going all the way this year. And then it's just gone.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
So, won't make you give any predictions. It's a little early for that, but can you give me a window? Like, what are you thinking? You've kind of summarized it, and I can make like an estimation based on what you've said. Happy to give ours. I don't think we've made official predictions yet, Andy. Feels a little early for that. Like, we don't know, like, Rod Moore. We think if healthy, Rod Moore's right up there with Caleb Downs. I don't want to speak for you, Andy, but I personally think that a healthy Rod Moore is and like, we don't know that we're going to have that. So, like, there's still some things we need to iron out. Our backup quarterback might not be able to play, so still a few more data points we need.
Yeah, I think, by the way, Rod Moore is a heck of a player, and I hope he is healthy for you guys. I think if Michigan wins, it's going to be very similar to what we saw in November, which is like a 13-10, 17-13 game where Zavada can't miss from 65, because he's ridiculous. And our kicker can't hit a 30-yarder. He's injured apparently.
I hope so.
But I'm gonna give him crap anyway. Yeah, oh gosh. He was money in the playoffs. So I've forgiven him mostly. But I think if Ohio State wins, and I don't mean this like Michigan's bad, but I think it has to be by multiple scores. Because I think if Ohio State tries to play a game in a phone, like if they try to play that same game, they're going to lose because they're going to get in their own heads. Like, it's just, it's Ryan Day's psyche. It's who he is. So be the best version of yourself. And so I think if they're able to make matchup exploit, I honestly think Max Clare might be the X factor if they win.
I like that take.
Because I think Michigan knows how to shut down their top 2 receivers, even with elite talents like Jeremiah Smith. They're not afraid to let one guy go off, but okay, we'll just shut everybody else down. But with a tight end that I think can exploit differently alongside several wide receivers, I think that might give them an edge that is not something they've seen. But that, again, I think they have to think through how to exploit that matchup and not get in their own head. So I think those are the 2 ways that game can go. I think it's either low scoring, tight, and I think Michigan wins that, especially at home. I think if Ohio State can engineer some quick scores early and again, front run, that's their pathway to.
What do you think about Ohio State for the season? Like, what range do you think they'd be?
That was more what I was asking, but I loved that.
You're good. No, that was great.
I wasn't clear with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually like them against Texas. Because with everybody talking about Ohio State's losses, nobody's talking about Texas's losses. And they lost some key guys, particularly their 2 top secondary players. And you're talking about losing 2 secondary players, their first game being Green, having to go up against Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Max Clare. Like, I'm sorry, advantage Ohio State, in my opinion. But I do think that middle 4, I think either Illinois or Washington will get them. Washington, to me, is a dark horse in the Big Ten.
Jonah Coleman's a stud.
Denzel Boston. I think Damon Williams is an upgrade over Will Rogers. The question is the offensive line. But I think one of those 2 teams will get Ohio State. And then I'll tell you, I think both Penn State and Michigan have recipes to beat Ohio State. Strong running games. I know we give James Franklin a lot of crap. They're my number one team right
Until
now.
he beats Ryan Day, man, I can never feel confident in him. Like, I just know there's always going to be something with Franklin. Like, I don't know, like, what it is.
Yep.
Like, he has some block. I mean,
He's got an Ohio State
he's
problem.
got an Ohio State problem. I mean, he hasn't beaten Ohio State since, 16? So, and, like, he has never beaten Ryan Day, and they have to go to Columbus. Like, I know people are talking about, like, Drew Aller getting better, but, like, the Oregon game can only carry so much weight. Every other game has to matter in his career, and I've just watched Drew Aller, like suffer and suck so many times. And it's like, oh, but his receivers are bad. Like, this guy gets so many second, third, and fourth, and fifth lives. Like, eventually he is who he is.
Yeah. Yes. And my thought on Penn State is right now, I look at who's coming back.
A lot of talent.
And I'm like, they're the number one team. But the question is development. How does Ohio State develop their trenches? To your point, Andy and Jared, before, I think, Jared, you made the point that, we don't know about Michigan's defensive or offensive line, and we don't know about Ohio State's defensive line. I think that's the real question mark in that game for me is if Ohio State's defensive line is getting worn down, it's not going to matter how good Drew Aller is, because that Penn State's offensive line is legit, and those running backs, oh my gosh. I mean, between Singleton and Allen and Haynes and Marshall, who I think Jordan Marshall is ascending.
That's my guy.
We're pro. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember
Pro
you guys
Marshall.
talking him up a year ago.
Yeah.
A year ago you were talking him up. I just think so. I would probably peg them at 10-2 or 9-3.
It's very reasonable.
I think 9-3 would, with a win over Texas, would most likely still get them in.
Yeah.
But it would be dicey, right? We saw it with the SEC teams a year ago. But I think 9-3 would get them in. But I will say this: if it's 9-3 with a loss to Michigan, that's gonna really sting, especially if they miss out on the playoff.
I think Jared and I both probably have Michigan, honestly, in the same realm. Like, I mean, this team won 8 games last year with the Service Academy offense. Like, you figure if you just get a heartbeat on that side of the ball with how much talent's coming back on defense, 4 of 5 on the offensive line from the Alabama game, a 2-headed monster at running back, like, that alone should be able to put you right in that 9-10 ballpark. I don't feel as confident early. I think the Oklahoma game could cause some issues just because it's on the road. Like, I know I said all that stuff about Mateer, but I could very much see that game being 1st to 15. And like
ugly,
just an ugly game, and they might come on the wrong side of that. But honestly, I think that could be a game that propels them. But I mean, they could even drop Nebraska there before they get on a run, because the schedule does lighten up a little bit for them in the middle of the year before obviously culminating at Ohio State.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and Nebraska, you guys could drop that game, or everybody could be saying Nebraska's back, and you've got the win then.
That's the one we got circled early on.
We
Yeah.
lose Raiola, it's gonna hurt me personally. Like, I
Yeah.
cannot stand Dylan Raiola. Like,
Don't really like Matt Rule anymore either.
no.
Been saying some
I'd rather
stuff.
be stung by a bee than like have Dylan Raiola be my quarterback. Not a fan.
Also not a fan. A point that you made earlier that I wanted to bring up, though, is we've never really seen Penn State under James Franklin with this level of expectations. Now they're the front runner. Like, that's kind of the team everyone has circled in the Big Ten. I mean, we're hearing a lot of Ohio State buzz from people, but I think you gave a far more nuanced breakdown of that as to why, like, 9-3, 10-2 is more realistic than running the table or something again.
Yeah, Penn State's trying to copy what Michigan did in 23 and what Ohio State did in 24 with like, hey, now we're doing it, and all of us are kind of like, okay. Sure, you're gonna
we'll
do it.
see.
You guys are going to win 4 games in a row in the playoff? Like, come on. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know if they are built to win a national championship. That for sure. I think the real question again is depth, and who do they get to replace Abdul Carter? I do think they have someone to replace Tyler Warren, which honestly, I love Tyler Warren. He's, between him and Colston Loveland, like those two guys are studs at tight end.
It was a good class last year.
Yeah, so good. But they have guys. I think Khalil Dinkins and Luke Reynolds are going to be. I think they're gonna be fine. I think Kotelnicki I think he'll be better this year. as a play caller. At times I thought Kotelnicki had the Chip Kelly problem where they just got too cute.
Ben
sometimes.
Johnson with the Lions would
And
do
it's
that
like,
too, and Jared and I'd be like, just run the football. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, and I think Knowles will help them defensively for sure. So I think the big question is Drew Aller, and you mentioned
Same.
like I think he can be solid, but can he be more? And that's I think to your point, Andy, like I think we need to see more, and there are Penn State fans we've talked to on our show, they're not convinced that the receiver room was the problem, that it was actually Drew Aller missing guys. And I can't say I fully disagree, but they did upgrade the wide receiver room. I think Pena and Devontae Ross and Hudson, like that's a good trio of receivers. Definitely an upgrade. I wouldn't say it's like it's going from like a C+ to a solid.
I mean, he's built like John Elway and throws like Gerald Elway. Like that's the issue. Like he's just everyone keeps giving him a chance because like look how giant he is. But I mean, if he were 6 feet tall, they'd be like, yeah, this guy's terrible.
He's got the Christian Hackenberg.
I like that.
You guys remember Hackenberg?
Yep,
like,
absolutely.
He would drop back. I was doing ministry at Penn State while he was. So I remember this very vividly, talking to students about this. He will drop back and telegraph his pass and throw it off his back foot, and it's like, well, yeah, of course it's a pick. Like, that's just bad mechanics. And so, I think the key question mark: can Kotelnicki get his mechanics more in order, where he's not throwing off his back foot, where he's not telegraphing his throws? That to me is the big question. And if Kotelnicki can help him change some of those habits, they've got something there. But I think until he does, I think I'm high on them, but I can understand why you guys are skeptical, because what has Aller proven to show up?
I always say Penn State's a middleweight that parades around like a heavyweight, but anytime they're in the ring with a heavyweight, they get knocked out.
And until I see otherwise, I'm going to believe that as well. Average yard per attempt, Drew Aller, for his career. This is with his best year last year. Still just above 8 yards per attempt. Like, can't really push the ball down the field. Definitely not something that looks like an NFL quarterback to me. But for some reason, like you said, Andy, he does get a lot of leeway. All right, man, before we get you out of here, anything else Big Ten related? Ohio State, Michigan, rivalry? Anybody we should be on the lookout? Any dark horse teams you want to shout out?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I'll give you a couple of rooms and a couple of things to consider. Rutgers' wide receiving room is surprisingly good.
Deep cut. I love this.
Yeah, Duff, Strong. They have a third guy who I'm missing. Underrated receiving group, and Kaliak Manis is going to throw more this year, which might scare people because you're like, he's not
The
good.
Greek rifle?
But he was surprisingly better than I think people give him credit for a year ago. The problem is their defense is gutted, so I think they're going to be in more shootouts, I think, this year than people expect, which I don't think bodes well. But I don't underestimate Greg Schiano.
Good
That's all I'm
coach.
going to say. I love that guy. Heck of a coach. So I think he's one. Or I think that's just one room to consider. USC is another one, and I think that's another game. You guys you have USC, I think, middle of the year, right? I think as much as I love to hate on Lincoln Riley and the pretty boy coach that he is, I don't think they have the defensive talent. I love me some Danton Lynn as a defensive coordinator. Really bright young mind. Another year of Jaden Mayava. I think they're another dark horse team. Maybe not to win the Big Ten, but I think they are a team that can make some waves. Everybody's talking about them losing Hudson and Branch at the wide receiver position, but they still have dynamic receivers in Lemon and Lane. I think they've improved their offensive line. I think their running back room has improved. And you look at that Notre Dame game, Mayava, yes, he turned the ball over, but he's got the skills and the talent. he has the un-Drew Aller problem where he's turning the ball over, but he's got the arm talent. And I think if he can grow into that, I think that team could be dangerously scary, especially for teams like Michigan.
3 time zone game for Michigan too.
Yeah, like that's a tough game.
That sucks. Yeah,
I feel that way a little bit about Iowa getting Gronkowski at quarterback. Like, just them having anything competent at that position makes me take Iowa just a little bit more seriously, because I know Phil Parker's going to get the job done because that's all Phil Parker does. And it's like, okay, if they can have anything just serviceable on that side of the ball, that's just a bonus, because they'll float around 7-8 wins. But with him, it's like, could they get to 9? Could they get even higher than that? And it's like, having a competent passer is a good way to start.
So here's my hot take on Iowa. I think Phil Parker and Ferentz, it's the beginning.
I've never bet against Phil Parker.
I'm a big Phil Parker guy too. It's tough not to love what he does.
I have been, and maybe this is just for fodder for the podcast, and I'll get flamed for this. But I saw more missed tackles out of a unit that was supposed to be elite last year than I think I've ever seen in an Iowa defense. And that scares the heck out of me, because you lose Jay Higgins, you lose Castro, and now granted their front four is going to be really good this year, but I am concerned about their back seven and the fundamentals. And anytime I hear Iowa could be good on offense, I just start panic selling. Because, everybody was in on Cade McNamara second year.
Not us.
No, not everyone.
But everyone was like, this could be good. And they've got Brendan Sullivan, and he could be good. And they've got, and it's like, and they don't have Caleb Johnson back. That scares me without Caleb Johnson. Like, but.
He's a stud.
I will also say I feel like Iowa is one of those teams, like, I'm right on about 20% of the time. So, Andy, you might absolutely be right, and I'm just like, I think old man Ferentz is he's old man.
Ferentz is old. Should have been out of the game years ago.
He very well could be. I like their schedule. I mean, they have Penn State and Oregon. They get them both at home though. Like, and I think one of those would be a night game, and it's like, it would not surprise me at all if they get Penn State at night at home and then just make Drew Aller's life hell. Like that, Oregon might be a harder ask, but like, talk about Phil Parker confusing Drew Aller, like, you can sell me on that.
Yeah.
Kinnick at night is a nightmare too. Yeah, happened to us. Yeah, Kinnick will take some victims with it for sure. Zach, this was a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for coming and chopping up with us. Tell the people where they can find your stuff.
Yeah, so the Big Ten Huddle, we are on Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, live on those nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. JR and I go on Sunday and Tuesday, and then JR and our good man Jeff is on Thursday. And YouTube, Apple, Spotify, that's where you can find us. We just partnered with the Believe Network, BLEAV, and so check them out. And obviously the College Huddle, which is, I think, 80 podcasts, fan-driven podcasts across the country for each college football team. So we're a part of that network as well. So
amazing. You're a good human being, one of the best Ohio State fans out there. We'll have to get both you and JR on so you're not outnumbered next time, though I felt this was civil because it's not football season yet. So,
Hey, I always strive for it. We can be uncivil during the game.
Yeah.
But
at the end of the day,
conversation.
Yeah, we're just innocent men at the end of the day. So we really appreciate you, Zach. We'll talk to you next time, man. Take care.
Yeah, likewise.
All right, that's going to do it for Out of the Blue tonight. Make sure you like, share, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Give us a 5-star review. We would certainly appreciate it. You can follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Out of the Blue Sports, OOTB Sports. You can reach out to us for a mailbag, ootbsports23@gmail.com. I'm Jared. That's Andy. This is Out of the Blue. We'd like to remind you that wherever you go, go blue.